Several days ago, I had a conversation with a person who told me about the continued act of people wanting to do things and never getting around to doing them, whether it's some lifelong aspiration or grandiose ambition that they choose to opt out of before they begin it, and then pass away with that same regret. And he claimed to me that this is a majority of people that will have some high aspiration, and then after not even trying to get it, just live some meager existence that is third rate when compared to what their initial plan was. Now, I don't know the viewpoints and the ideas other people have in their heads and what they're seeking to do. Um, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say that his statement or otherwise look into human psychology is correct. I have a best friend I've spoken about several times in this channel, and he decided to leave our state of California to go to a school in another state. And I remember I asked him, why are you going to this school that's miles and miles and just this far distance out? I couldn't fathom where one would find the appeal of being separated from, not only their friends but also family and just those they had become accustomed to over the course of their life, to seemingly be by themselves in some big environment. And he told me in one of our first conversations after he had gone over there that he didn't want to be part of a group of might have beens that thought about something and became concerned enough to just opt out entirely instead of risking it. He realized the stakes of not being around those he cared about, but he also understood that in not being around that group and being somewhere else, he could potentially achieve something of a higher magnitude than what he had over here. And really, as I kind of sat back and thought about those two statements, that of people for the most part having huge plans and then not doing anything and going unrealized for the remainder of their lives, and my friend saying that thing about the group that actually stays at home and chooses to not explore that venture. I took it to mean a couple of things. I've had people that will say I'm smart, or I've had people who will say that I have some basic knowledge of whatever topic I'm speaking about, whether that's history or politics or I guess communication skills, something to that effect. And one of the reasons I immersed myself in, I guess, trying to put out content as regularly as I do, and also just speaking about the various topics that I have, is based on that idea that you won't be able to do it in 5 days or a week or a month or a year. That you don't understand or otherwise comprehend what entirely lies in the future. I look at many of the celebrity deaths we saw last year and the year before that. Many of those celebrities sometimes, such as the case with Chris Cornell, for example. I'd gotten his music over the summer of 2016. If you had told me back then that in 10 months he'd be deceased, I would have thought you were going out of your mind. And really, that was backed by me not knowing much about his life or his personal issues, whatever they might have been at that time. Um, and I'm not speculating, but it is to suggest I found it very sudden and shocking, just in that passing and in many of the other deaths that we saw. But that one rings to mind more so than the others. So, really, what I've tried to do on this channel is talk about things that I guess some might consider adult, or some might consider, you know, personal stuff, as in the case with these relationship vids that have come out here and there. And it's done with the intent of demonstrating that when you have a life, and this is true for anyone, you are not fully in control of how it plays out. The other people in it, the natural events around you, whether that's a hurricane or some other freak of nature, will also play a factor in determining how it goes and showing the effects of what could happen that you yourself did not try to make happen. I'd like to say that there are many things I would prefer to do. I probably wouldn't have gotten into certain topics or various things if I hadn't have researched them, and I probably wouldn't have had the time to research them if I was so widely popular at some earlier age. But that didn't come, and whether you blame that on the part of others or myself, it's still something that was influenced to an extent by both sides. Let me answer Chazar, or Chazar, however you pronounce it. You can correct me. Speaking of Chris Cornell, I listened to him since I was 13. Never thought the guy would commit suicide so sudden. Come soon. That's the point I'm making. You and everyone else who is a fan of someone or does not know someone personally, even those who know someone personally, you don't have a timetable laid out in front of you of how long this is going to last. What the extent of which their days are numbered. It's never displayed for you. So yeah, Envoy, the streams are seemingly back. What we'll find out as time passes. Maybe this is just a fluke. But technology was not my friend these last couple of weeks, so that was the result of the streams just disappearing. But really, that's the reason I brought that stuff up is kind of the introduction. Is that it resonates with me in the idea that those are two people with very different personalities. One is, one of them, he's my best friend's probably the kind of person you meet maybe 2 or 3 times in life. And the other one is of a very high intellectual level, but also of a very polarizing, morbid view on things that can be defined as negative, but also he's good when he's good, basically. And to see those two say things that kind of parallel each other while leading lives that are separate but also similar in the effect of, I'm over here doing my own thing because I want to improve my own stuff. It was a really interesting experience. And to have them not know of each other's presence or existence or be privy to what the other one said was also adding to that idea that the people you're around who you see going out of their way to just try and be different from others, and not even just that, but also demonstrate that when you remove yourself from groupthink and from the idea that you must appease others in the classical sense of just hanging out and doing things that people of a certain age group or demographic do, you end up effectively casting your own faith when you escape that thought and that idea. And so really what I'm trying to figure out is, how long do I have to keep reading comments online that are indicative of this idea that you must go and appeal to this person? And we're not even talking about romance. We're talking about just basic human interactions. I've read for so long, you have to act this way to be interesting to these types of people. You have to do this to appeal to that type of person. And these are things that people will say to you with this core idea that if you don't do it, and you don't do it in these couple of years, you're screwed for life. And they have no way of knowing that. Someone that's over here watching this and sees some 5-minute clip of me talking about my difficulties with relationships or with anything else is not going to be privy to what I'm doing in 10 or 20 years. They're not even really privy to what I'm doing now, except speaking on YouTube. And it's just this idea that we live in a society, thanks to the advent of the internet partially, where people from all over the world, from across the United States to Canada and Russia, can tell someone, this person over here, this person over there, this person over here thinks you have to act this way, and just otherwise go away. Act this way or go away. So let me answer the 2 comments. Okay, Rogue Planets is the theme of this video. Reminds me of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I'm guessing that's his name. a message I very much need to be reminded of today. I'm thanking you for that comment. Envoy says, I've realized since I've been getting older, I draw a hard line on people who I feel aren't worth it. My fuse is way short with people who I deem are disrespectful. Reluctant dragons just stick their fingers in their ears and go, no, 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 no. Yeah, that's what they do. Just as this message will fall on deaf ears in a couple of cases. Taylor says, even if I was in a collective, I wouldn't know what that collective would give me in reward to my contribution. People often say it's the great of good of your people or some power. Well, I am not disputing that. My problem stems from this idea that you have to find fulfillment in others. Now, as I've stated before, there are certain things you can't do without others. You can't go see a movie with a group of people and say, oh, it's me, myself, and I going to check out this film. But we are told constantly, interact with someone, just interact with somebody. And, the message of somebody should not be the case. It should be, if you find a person who happens to come along and you connect with them, then do it with that person, maybe somebody else. But other than that, go your own road, because we don't know the extent. Even if you assume the majority of people aren't bad, the majority of people you won't have deep relationships with or want to just go out and do things with. You won't, because most people that we encounter, we walk past and don't really give much forethought to. The Envoy says human interactions need to be organic. I feel as if I'm getting off topic. But I wanted to make that introductory statement to pin down this idea that you can't keep thinking about, because I've sometimes seen comments, whether directed at me or someone else, that will cause me to become disillusioned with my own cause and say, oh, it's all for naught. No one's listening. The whole thing is shutting down. And inevitably, I get out of that mindset by reminding myself that you don't have another, in the case of this year, 2018, you don't get to replay this. Yeah, appeal to futility. And really, the biggest part of this is that if there is something you want to do, see to it that it is done. I've tried to do that in speaking about the things I have, and I'm just so tired of people, from what I see as that group of those that don't want to go and do bold new things, saying, hey, look, stay in the status quo, stay in the status quo. You see that with politics all the time. I've denounced both major parties, and I still have people telling me about the Democrats and Republicans. I keep saying that's my. Well, I don't want to have somebody run out of here because I just made that comment. But the idea is that I know what my views are. They know what their views are. If you keep trying to influence my stuff, as I've already had my views influenced. I used to be a very loyalist Democrat until 2 years ago, and I just got sick of both parties. You're going to get the same result of just me being sick of both parties, because I've already made that change. I'm not going to switch back. So my reinforcements are backed by what I consider to be well-adjusted opinions that have some basis in fact. So if I make some comment, I'll try to give you some kind of source or article that could verify that claim. A lot of times when I would go into those news stories, whether they were about various incidents or something Trump said or whatever, I would read off an article, and I would go and say, this was stated by these people to be whatever, and then someone go in the comment section, it was offensive, it wasn't stated, no, it was. Well, again, I'm reading the article. I'm not trying to play a force of opinion. I give my opinion later on, but it's designed so that you hear this going in, I have a neutral perspective reading the story, and then you have your own opinion afterward. I can't just read the story neutrally. I have to just insert my opinion. That's dangerous if you have people that can't even just relay information as it stands, but have to instead go, no, this person's bad. Just tell me about what happened. Don't turn it to a commentary. Okay, Chaser says Democrats and Republicans almost seem to be playing for the same team. Pretty much. I've already spoken about. I don't think I've ever made a video where I just proved both sides are we call it two sides of the same coin. I might do that later on in the near future. So, all in all, I just wanted to say there are many things online that I look at and I get disappointed by, whether it's directed toward me or someone else. There are sometimes comments left on my stuff that do disillusion me. Um, but I always come back and try again because we're too early in this little saga of me doing this stuff to throw in the towel. We have to meet certain points in time, whether that's this upcoming election cycle of the midterms, the presidential election, or me being able to just see how I advance through things that I can't completely surrender at this point. It's and what really gets me is that most of it is done. So why would I throw in the towel now? You might as well finish what you began. Okay, Rogue Planet says both candidates' campaigns are usually funded by the same bank. Hey, you're preaching to the choir. Envoy says life is so unexpected. LOL. And here's the thing. Even in saying that, what I want to close this out with is just stop thinking about the idea of failure. And when I mentioned that thing about what those two said, those two very different people, the theme was, yes, I can drop, I can just completely fall spectacularly, but I can also succeed magnificently. And whether the odds are in my favor or not, I'm not going to throw in the towel until the final ticket is drawn. Just keep fighting forever until the conclusion of that battle. So I wanted the main crux of this video to be, or stream rather, to be centered on that idea that when you live a life, whether you're 10 or 100 or anything in between, you're not privy to how it can turn out because of the choices made by those around you, and environmental issues such as storms and tornadoes and just things that you have no control over. And ultimately you have to try to adjust it in a way that really reflects what you ultimately want to do. Because there are many times where I've said, oh, what's the point of turning this camera on? Nobody's going to listen to what I have to say. I might as well just screw it. I only get 10 views anyway. And then I just decided, well, you know what? If I am only able to get that many people to check it out, I might as well make it for that group of 10. And occasionally some stuff will get more, some stuff gets less. But I can't entirely see what will happen unless I go out and get a glimpse into the future, which is impossible. And really it's that idea of this unknown future that can be bended to something of good or bad depending on my actions that is so enticing. It's really what makes life more interesting than it probably is, where you just wonder what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week or next year. We're already seeing events I didn't foresee that long ago. And really, that applies to both the news and your own personal lives. And just this idea that you have to ride it out until everything is over. I've seen for quite some time that people say I'm going to do this and just not get around to it. And I've had that happen sometimes in my own projects. I've thought of tens of projects and maybe only done about maybe 7 or 8 of them. That's not because I don't have the tools to do it. Sometimes just I don't see the purpose of doing it. I don't think it's going to be as successful as I would think. Okay, this stream's connection is going out, so I'll end it here. So thank you for listening. If you can still hear me, I appreciate it.